What's going on, football fans? It's Mitch here, joined by, of course, the one and only Dr. Jen Welter. It is the Juke live on Twitch. We have a very special episode here today live for you. And if you are live, make sure you're in that chat, letting us know how you feel about what we're discussing, because today we are discussing my quarterback rankings that I released on my YouTube channel, The Bottom Line View. I ranked every starting quarterback in the NFL from number 32 to number 1. So Jen is going to react. She's going to rip my list to shreds and give her opinion and her take on where I put certain quarterbacks. What's going on, Jen?
Mitch. And, is an interesting thing that you said right there. First of all, you went with the assumption that these are all going to be the starting quarterbacks, which in and of itself is debatable, right? Because we don't know what the rookies are going to do. We do know that some of these guys will be displaced, including your number 2, who we don't even know if he will report to training camp. Let's start with Rodgers.
That's your favorite.
Right? We still don't know if he's going to discount, double check, and wreck himself, or if his career is in jeopardy. Will he report to training camp? So I have a big problem putting him up at number 2 because, yes, he is a talented quarterback, but we don't know if he's going to be hosting Jeopardy, playing the guitar, or if he has successfully ticked off his receivers or some of the guys in his team, i.e. like an O-line Olay. So Rodgers is not my leader right now. I'm not putting a lot of faith in him because I don't even know what he's going to do. So I, in my mental list, can't put him at number 2 because I don't even know what he's going to do. So Rodgers has to be a little sidebar for me right now. I'm just going to start with that.
Are you putting Rodgers on your list, period?
I'm putting him on the bench right now because that's where he is. He's not there. He's not present, which means, do you have to rate Jordan Love? I don't know about that one because he may be there with Tua and his 5 interceptions. But I have a big problem saying, Rodgers, you're our guy, when right now I don't know if his viability is any better than Jimmy Garoppolo's or Deshaun Watson's based on what's gone on in their off seasons.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of my ranking. I think a big reason, because I ended the season, just for you to know, Jen, I ended the season thinking Aaron Rodgers was the best quarterback last year. He was the MVP of the league, and I thought he outperformed Patrick Mahomes when they both took on the Bucs. I thought he gave his team a better chance to win than Patrick Mahomes did in the Super Bowl. Both guys were undermanned on the offensive line. I thought Rodgers did a better job of making it competitive. So last year, I looked at Mahomes and Rodgers as toe-to-toe, who is the best quarterback. But ultimately, what made me decide to go with Mahomes as number 1 is part of the Aaron Rodgers off the field and that whole storyline, as well as I think Patrick Mahomes the last 2 seasons, going to the Super Bowl both seasons, winning one, losing the other, has proven that time after time, he can overcome and be clutch in big moments. And I think over the last couple of years, he's been the better player in those moments than Aaron Rodgers. So that's why I ultimately decided to go with Mahomes at number 1, Aaron Rodgers at number 2, because I did decide to rank Aaron Rodgers and I wasn't going to rank him any lower than number 2 for me.
Well, and there's a couple other things with Aaron Rodgers versus Patrick Mahomes. I'll give you that Patrick Mahomes has shown that making ability, no doubt, right? Like, nobody can say that he hasn't. We don't even know how people do the things that he does, right? Yep. Everything that they ever used to say that quarterback shouldn't do, he does and makes other people want to do it. And, people are looking for other quarterbacks who have that magic and can do it, i.e. with some of the big throw plays that you saw, maybe like a Zach Wilson get more play from, because people want not just somebody who's going to come in and do the job, but somebody who's going to work magic, hence the Mahomey magician kind of title. But what he also has done is shown that he's a leader off the field. He took a page out of Tom Brady's playbook and helped free up some cap space to bring in some additional talent, which shows he's a team guy. And you also didn't see him leave balls kind of like floating around on the ground where maybe he should have gotten them. You don't have the going for the field field goal type of thing. So, Rodgers for me right now is not showing the leadership that you need to win a Super Bowl. As an individual, he is super. But
Yep.
as a leader in the locker room and with the team dynamics right now, he has lost points with me, and so has Russell Wilson. So, I'm looking at what did their offseason commentary also impact on all of the guys around him. And by the way, Russ, you're going to have a tough time cooking up anything if we don't get Jamal Anderson to go ahead and sign, because you already have no sack count, which means you're going to have to put up like 5,000 yards to be able to win a game. And if you can't get Jamal Adams to come in and lead your sacks, buddy, it's going to be a long, long year for you, right? Like there are problems in Seattle, which again, make it hard for me to say just objectively that these are the best quarterbacks. Because what are we looking at? Are we looking at just straight up numbers? Okay, I get it. But are we looking at the impact of having those guys on your roster, i.e. a Brady effect, where they just returned all of their starters and people are lining up to play and to get a bit of that Tom Brady, which you have so nicely displayed behind you, magic, and yet you put him at number 4.
Yeah. So first, replying to your Russell Wilson comment, I do think that's kind of died down. Russell Wilson's answered some questions in his press conferences throughout the mini camp portion. He's been there. He's been present. He's been a leader on the team. And it seems like him and Pete Carroll are on good footing right now. So I didn't really hurt his ranking based off of his off the field, because, I get it. Like once it's time for business, he's back in the building. He's ready to go. Was he maybe a little bit ticked off this offseason? Yes. Was there a little bit of drama in the offseason? Yes, but he's put that behind him and he's come to work. So I'm not really going to put that on Russell Wilson personally. I felt like with Russell Wilson, more so what I saw, because last year I ranked him number 2. And I saw a little bit of a decline at the end of the year. Last year, he wasn't playing as well. I felt he took way too many sacks and put his team in jeopardy on offense, and they lost rhythm at the end of the year. In terms of Tom Brady, I put Tom Brady at number 4, and I understand all your points about leadership. Of course, there's no bigger Brady fan than me, but I just felt like the 3 guys ahead of him, 2 things. I thought they played more consistently last year. I thought there were points, because Tom Brady was on a new team in a new system, which also helps him rank at number 4. He had times of inconsistencies or bad performances where these 3 other players didn't have those performances. I felt he was on a very talented team, which definitely helped him win. And then lastly, because of that, he didn't have to carry his team as much. He could lean on the defense. He could lean on the run game when Josh Allen was his run game. So that's why I ranked him ahead of Tom Brady at number 3. And that's why I ranked only Brady at number 4.
Well, if you're looking for Tom Brady to be the run game, Houston, we have a problem, and we might have even more problems than Houston does right now, which I saw that you put Tyrod Taylor all the way in the basement, below even Tua, who threw 5 interceptions the other day.
Can I pause you there for a sec? What do you think of quarterbacks throwing interceptions in practice? Because I feel like it's kind of overrated. I don't know how you feel about that.
Tua has no room for error. We already have questions about his ability to overcome adversity. And this is how you start out. You're not giving anybody confidence. Now, if you have certain quarterbacks, some interceptions in practice, maybe yes, maybe no, right? Especially as the teams really get to know each other. But this early, it is not a great sign. And 5 is an excessive number, right? It's not like, oh, maybe, 1 or 2. I mean, that's 5. Right. And, these defenses don't yet know him to the extent that they will. So that means it was straight off playmaking ability, and being in the right position and being able to read him, which makes me think if he's that easily able to be read, other teams are going to take him apart as well. And I also don't know about his ability to, again, rebound and recover.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think with Tua, I've never been super high on him. I've said this a couple times on the podcast. A lot of that stems from I didn't really see the evaluation of him coming into the NFL and being this elite talent, because I don't really see any elite traits that he offers. Like when you watch him, nothing really stands out about his game. It's not the mobility. It's not the arm. It's not the accuracy. So I'm not really sure. We'll see this year. He's surrounded by lots of talent. And I definitely felt like he won some games. He managed the football game well. So I kind of described him as like Teddy Bridgewater with a bit more mobility. That's kind of the way that I see him. So we'll see how he performs this year. But yeah, I'm certainly not super high on him, but I did think that he deserved to be ranked because of his potential slightly higher than an Andy Dalton or a Tyrod Taylor, where their time has kind of come and gone, and they're sort of like upper echelon backups, in my opinion, that right now hold starting positions.
Yeah, I don't know how long Andy Dalton will hold that starting position. Again, that's another one by the things that we've kind of seen coming out of Chicago. He may not even get
he might
to
not
be that starter. And then, with Tyrod Taylor, again, I think the shame is that you said come and gone. I don't even know if his time has ever really come. And he is, by all accounts, a hard worker. He's had to play in lots of different systems. I would put the ball in his hands before I would Tua, that for sure.
Okay.
I just,
that's understandable.
I haven't seen enough from Tua, and I know that Tyrod has been able to step into a lot of hard situations, which means, though he's never gotten the opportunity to really get comfortable, which is tough, right? Every new system you go into, that's a huge learning curve, as we saw with Tom Brady, the GOAT, right? He still had a learning curve to go through. And if Brady has a learning curve, as long as he's played, since, he took over the job from Moses, essentially, like if he has a learning curve going into a new system, every quarterback does. So I don't know if we've ever really gotten to see truly what Ty Taylor was capable of, but I'm certainly going to put the ball in his hands before I am Tua, because I don't even know what Tua is or ever will be. And I think we saw a lot of his true colors come out towards the end of this season, when everything went from starter to backup to starter to back it all the way up, because we don't even know we've got anymore.
Yeah, I think the thing with me for Tyrod Taylor is, especially the last couple of seasons, he's had opportunities to start. Like he started, I know that it's been on different teams and different systems, but he had his opportunity in Buffalo and he did pretty well with it. But obviously it was one of those situations where it was like, we see the ceiling. And I think that's kind of like what every team has seen with Tyrod Taylor, where they decided instead to go with Tyrod Taylor, they went with Josh Allen. They drafted Josh Allen and they went in the rookie direction. Then he went to Cleveland and he just got outplayed by Baker Mayfield. And then he went to the Chargers and then he started the first game, had that whole craziness. And then the second game, which was awful for him, like that's terrible. But I think we saw that maybe it's just because Mayfield, Herbert, and Allen are all really good quarterbacks. Like maybe that's just unfortunate, but he's never really been able to reach the heights of what the offense, I think, offers him. I feel like he's been a little too conservative when he is playing, but that's just me. I think he's a serviceable starter. I just don't see the upside anymore. Personally.
I think the biggest problem that Tyrod Taylor is going to have this season is the fact that he is in Houston. And we can all agree that Houston is not the place to be right now when it comes to the National Football League on so many levels, right? It was the mass exodus of Houston. You would think that they were putting people on rocket ships for money at the rate that they have lost both players and, head coach, GM, everything else in the building. Even their PR person left, their president left. I mean, it's really like, anybody else want to go? Like anybody else want to go to the moon just to get out of Houston? So I think that's the biggest challenge with Tyrod Taylor, though. I do wish him the best. Andy Dalton, again, we don't know how long he's going to stay even in that top.
What's your prediction for that? What is your prediction? Andy Dalton, is he going to get replaced sooner rather than later, or will he surprise?
I think it's really going to depend on how fast they can bring in their new starter. I don't think that they've ever looked at him as the long-term solution, right? Even after they signed Andy Dalton, they were still rumors of Russell Wilson. So he was to them,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, Andy Dalton was a brilliant backup decision by the Dallas Cowboys, right? Should he have ever had to start that many games? No, because we were thinking, we've got Dak and you can sit on back because we're not putting you in the game. But
Yeah.
when he went down, all of a sudden, Jerry had a backup situation that was better than most of the teams that had,
And I think he went 4-5 as a starter.
yeah.
And that was, the other thing when he signed with the Cowboys was he lost both of his starting tackles. So it wasn't just that Dak wasn't there, but you were also missing both of your bookends of your offensive line. And now you had a kind of pocket quarterback who relies on protection and is not a great player to have to basically overcome that. So yeah, I thought Andy Dalton,
there were a lot of things in Dallas that were bad. You are exactly.
Yeah, and the defense was awful too. So like, at least it would have been nice, at least if he had the offensive line where maybe they would have done a little bit better, but.
Right. And that the run game could have taken some of that pressure off. I see here, Matt Nagy says he already has ruled out starting Justin Fields in week 1. No scenario where Andy Dalton is a backup. Well, that is assuming that Andy Dalton stays healthy throughout training camp, but I do like his thinking on that. I don't want you to rush Justin Fields and just feel like you have to bring him up, because then you could be talking of a Tua situation. However, if you do have someone who is an ultimate talent, I do not think that Matt Nagy has the luxury of time in terms of the Chicago Bears anymore, right? So I think you really do have to prove, not that you have to have this epic winning season or that anybody thinks you're going to the Super Bowl unless they're completely delusional, but I do think that you have to show that you have a plan for this team and that people can buy into the longevity, which means I think you are going to have to see a transition towards a real future, which to me really does signal to we're going to need to start getting Justin Fields there. And if they feel like Andy Dalton can, do a good job to keep them in a good position, then they're not in a hurry. But I don't think that his job is secure throughout the season by any means.
Yeah, I think part of the reason, if I'm not mistaken, I think they play the Bengals like really early in the year. So it's like a revenge game. It's rather week 1 or week 2. So my guess is Dalton will at least get that game just because that's a big game for him personally, and they'll give him that respect. And then maybe they go to Justin Fields. I expect Justin Fields to definitely be the starter down the road, but I was basing it on when the season begins, who are the starters. But yeah, that's
I know, Mitch. And if I didn't give you a hard time, what would we be doing here? If I just said,
no, of course. You have any more players to give me a hard time about?
Oh, I have many. Are you kidding?
Okay, let's go.
I have many.
Let's go. Next.
I want to talk Jared Goff here for a second. I found a really funny quote on Jared Goff, and it said from Yahoo News, Jared Goff is quickly becoming the Rodney Dangerfield of NFL quarterbacks. He gets no respect at all. Look at some of the recent quarterback rankings from national analysts. And I thought that was pretty hilarious because, first of all, I don't know why he would get respect at this point.
I thought, honestly, Jen, I thought he was awful last year. Like, awful.
Yeah, he was awful. Yeah. And Sean McVay looked like he was going to lose all of his good hair and quite possibly go through, going from being one of the youngest head coaches to looking like he was one of the oldest, because Jared Goff gets no respect from me. I actually, I might have put him further down on your list. But I did think it was funny that he was the Rodney Dangerfield, because I think he is in danger. And, I don't find him being long for this field. I really don't, unless they can drastically turn it around. He has never made me think that's my guy, right? This is who I am giving the keys to the kingdom. Yes, Jared Goff. Oh. But yeah, I did like that he was the Rodney Dangerfield. I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think part of it with Jared Goff, he was a tough one to rank personally because I thought he played poorly, as we discussed last year. They wanted to go to John Wolford in the playoffs. Okay. Not just in week 15, 13, the playoffs. And then it's hard to rank him because now he's on the Lions, who are absolutely awful. And I think people are going to see that without the system backing him and some of the talent that's been there in LA, it's not going to turn out so well for Goff, in my opinion. But you have to give him at least some credit for the way that he has performed in certain seasons in the past. He has been a quarterback that started in a Super Bowl. He has put up pretty good statistics. So it was a weird one where I was like, I have to balance this to not be too disrespectful. But I think he starts this entire year and the Lions look to move on next year. I think it's going to be a pretty quick transition. Everybody will kind of realize that Goff will likely be a backup for the rest of his career. Maybe that's a hot take, but that's just the way I kind of see it too.
Yeah, unless they can really revitalize something, and that involves biting kneecaps and having a pet lion and everything else that is going on that has absolutely nothing to do with football. I think that you're probably pretty dead on with that one, but I did want to throw that in there. I think you have Ryan Fitzpatrick way low. I like Fitzmagic for a comeback season. I think he's ticked off, and I think he has good reason. I do think that he has some tricks there in that beard, but it is hard, right? It is a hard place. Trevor Lawrence, he's a rookie. He will be there. I do think it's interesting that you have Zach Wilson above Trevor Lawrence, because they are both kind of, a little bit in the same situation. New staff, new systems, rookie quarterbacks. What gives you the Zach Wilson edge to Trevor Lawrence, Mitch?
Here's the thing. I could see Lawrence playing better as a rookie, but I think Zach Wilson long-term will be the better quarterback. And I said in my rankings of the quarterbacks coming out of the draft, I think Wilson has more unique ability to throw the football in a way that we see with the elite passers. The different arm angles, off of different platforms, the ability to buy time and throw on the move. I think he has a special ability there. And then all I've heard is glowing, reviews of Zach Wilson in camp. So it does seem like he is really impressing people there. It's really tough to know which one. Definitely, I would say Trevor Lawrence is in an easier situation in his rookie year, even though he's the first overall pick and has more pressure. The defenses that Wilson has to play in the AFC East are much better and much more challenging, and he has to play them 6 times.
Yeah.
But I just look at their talent. I just feel like Wilson is going to be the better player, and I ranked him higher coming out of the draft. So I just felt like it was my duty to put him one spot higher in my rankings personally.
All right. So let's finish the bottom of the barrel as you have it. Sam Darnold is interesting to me. Again, I'm not a huge Sam Darnold fan, but obviously he's been in the dumpster fire that was the Jets. So hard to place. Jimmy G.
Yeah.
I mean, will he be healthy at all? Will he be playing? I think, again, he may or may not be their starter for very long. I don't think that they're in a rush, obviously, but I think that they have talent on the bench that they went up to get. I don't think that they've been all in on Jimmy G for a while. So I think he is a placeholder at best, which means he may be on the bench soon with some of these guys. So we can just kind of say that with Jimmy G. I think Jameis Winston is the interesting one, right? Where you have him right now, he could end up there, right? If he is the Jameis Winston of old, or by the end of the season, he could be, in your top 12 easily.
Because that's what I said in the video.
Yeah.
That's what I said in the video. The thing with Jameis Winston is he's the hardest guy to rank because he has upside that is worthy of top 15 for sure. And then he has downside that's worthy of not even being on the list. So Jameis Winston, that was the problem with me. So basically the dilemma there was ranking Jimmy versus Jameis. And basically what it came down to was, who am I going to feel more comfortable in to not lose me the game? And ultimately that was Jimmy Garoppolo.
But who do you think could bring you back to win a game? And that is also
probably Jimmy Jameis. Yeah.
Right.
So it was really tough. I mean, you could debate it either way. And that was one of those where I could flip flop it for sure. Those two specifically. But yeah, I think Jimmy G is actually going to play fairly well this year. And I wouldn't actually be surprised if he starts the entire year this year, because if they're on a run and they start off really well and he's the starting quarterback, which I do believe he's going to be because Kyle Shanahan said it many times, it's going to be hard to take him out unless they pull a Miami Dolphins situation. So we'll see how that works out. But as long as he stays healthy, and that was a big reason he was also lower, I think he can be really good because he's shown the capacity to win a lot of games in this league. So,
and he is surrounded by talent, right? Like, no doubt he is surrounded by talent. And that 49ers franchise quickly goes back to the 2-year removed team because of all the injuries. And so he does have that benefit. Let's go back to the top of your list now. We can leave the middle. At the top, we already talked about Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and even Josh Allen and Tom Brady. Russell Wilson, again, I think I put Lamar either where you have him or maybe just tipping the scales around 5. But
who do you rank higher, Lamar or Wilson?
I think Lamar. I think his running ability is obviously more in its prime at this time, and he finally has targets. Yeah. So I think Lamar is going to have a heck of a season. And again, there's the other stuff right now with Russell Wilson that, though we haven't heard as much about it, doesn't mean that it was forgotten, right? It might be gone, but not forgotten, because I still don't know what the heck the Seahawks are doing. Like, I feel like they've been stuck in an identity crisis for a long time now. And, I just don't know what they're doing. So
I think the identity crisis is the identity of what Wilson wants the team to be and what Carroll wants the team to be. That's been an issue for a while, but it doesn't really seem to affect their wins and losses. So I don't know.
It does, because they haven't broken through back to that superior, leave no doubt that we are in the top 4 teams, right? Like, they may be on some list, they may not, they just aren't superior or leaving no doubt that this is their identity and you're going to have to beat them at their own game. They're kind of a little bit all over the roadmap. So I'm not overly impressed with them. I think Matthew Stafford is hard for me to put up at 7. I don't think that you're wrong in terms of the upside that he is going to have and the magic that is going to be him with Sean McVay. I feel like Sean McVay just found the fountain of youth. I feel like he is going to get his mojo back. I think that you are probably right on the upside. I just haven't seen that from Stafford. So I'm not ready to necessarily say he's one of my top 10. I think he's probably right around 11 for me, because he is on that, I think he will bump up, but right now I don't have enough from him to put him in my top 10. Dak, I think, will come back and earn top 10 as well. We got to see what he's going to look like healthy. Getting that O-line back, huge upside for him. But Dallas has been, and they've got a lot of transition. So again, could they be a dominant team this year? I think so, but we still have a lot of question marks. So again, they might not quite be in that top for me. And then you surprised me a bit with Justin Herbert and Ryan Tannehill. Again, Tannehill, I think, will stay up there. Justin Herbert will have a little bit of a second-year slump. They all do. And here's the reason. Defenses have now had a year to adapt to you. And there is a reason why quarterbacks do not do as well. Plus, he is going to go through a huge transition with, a new system and those things. So do expect him to step back a little bit before he comes back. Now, I think when he comes back stronger, and he will be one of these definite future stars in the league, but I think he's going to have a little friction getting there, a little bit of growing pains, right? Because defenses are better, and he will have to learn some new stuff as, there has been a transition there. I think you're underestimating Kyler Murray. I think he should be in the top 10, and as much as it pains me.
Oh no.
I have to put Baker.
Wow.
The commercial maker.
I actually thought
in the
you
top
were
10.
I thought you were going to be mad that I had him at 12. I'm honestly shocked by this.
No, I don't. Because think about it.
Wow.
He has his weapons back. He's gotten better at distributing the football. His O-line is the top. And then he has that backfield. So yes, he's surrounded by talent, but he is the princess in the tower of not getting touched. Baker Mayfield can put things together. He is on a superior Browns team that are going to go deep. I think that Baker Mayfield comes in right around 9 or 10 to me. I haven't kept exactly track of the guys that I've bumped out a little bit, but I
think
him
you
up
said
there.
Stafford and Herbert were your guys you're bumping out.
Yep, I'm definitely bumping them out. Tannehill might be 10 or 11, and Dak is right on that cusp for me, but I do think Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray should be in that top 10. And then the other one I think you have slightly underrated. I think you're probably a little bit high on Derek Carr and Kirk Cousin. I could bump them down a little bit and bump up Matty Ice. I know that you think he's on the downswing. I do worry about him not having Julio as a target, but I do think that Matty Ice put up extreme numbers last year. He is going to go big to Kyle Pitts. I just see it happening. I know you don't think a rookie can pull that in, but with the freak talent assessments that I've gotten from my friends, he's going to have big numbers and he could be your offensive rookie of the year as not a quarterback, right? Like I don't know about quarterbacks because they can always take it, but in terms of really making an impact and making a big one, I think he will. Their offense has always been good, and they stayed with Matty Ice for a reason in the building. So I put Matty Ice up. Derek Carr, I don't even know what the heck they're doing. Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know what the heck they're doing. And Cam Newton, Carson Wentz also could be a little bit lower. And Daniel Jones, why do you like Daniel Jones?
Danny Dimes. Oh. That's my guy.
I know it's your guy, but I can't
He's gonna make plays go with this that. Year. Breakout season. Season.
I easily put Jameis Winston over Danny Dimes.
All right. I guess we'll see what happens. Both of them are kind of similar. I think they both have lots of upside. Both have lots of downside. So to try to respond to all of those things that you just said, let's try to go through it. So first, starting with Matt Ryan, I think the biggest reason I ranked Matt Ryan at number 15 is because last year I saw him lose some of the zip on the ball that he used to have. I felt like he did decline a little bit. And the biggest reason I felt that way, when you compare him to a guy like, let's say, Derek Carr, who's a spot higher than him. Derek Carr went 8-8 with a really bad team. And I thought he played really efficient football. He can move better, I think, than Ryan. I think he's still got the zip on the ball. And I thought he had one of his best seasons since his near MVP campaign in 2016. So I really liked what I saw from Derek Carr last year. I think it was very underrated. A big difference between, I think, Ryan and Carr last year was Carr won some games at the end of the game. I think he had 3 or 4 game-winning drives, and Matt Ryan really didn't. So I thought the difference between the two were Matt Ryan wasn't making the big time plays when he needed to, and Derek Carr was. That was my difference.
Matt Ryan put them up to substantial leads, and the defense absolutely devastated the Falcons in some of those games. So we can't put it against Matt.
The Raiders defense was really bad too.
Yeah, but Matt Ryan put up huge numbers, and there were 95% to win on 5 games that the defense lost. And I mean, not the other team.
I'm not putting it all on Matt Ryan
because the defense lost. But I do agree with what you said about Derek Carr. I would love to see him get back to that MVP campaign season, because that will make the NFL much more exciting, right? Whether you love the Raiders or hate them, they're a fun team to have good, right? Whether you hate them or you love them, I want to talk about the Raiders. I want to make fun of Chucky and Mike Mayock and all of the Raider insanity. So please, Derek Carr, come back and be that guy.
Yeah, I think the difference for me between Kirk Cousins there at a spot higher than Carr is kind of like projecting into this year. So I think Atlanta and the Raiders are going to stink. And I think the Vikings are going to be really good. So I think Kirk Cousins they're all kind of similar. I wouldn't be mad at anybody if you rank them the opposite. But like Cousins threw 35 touchdowns last year. I thought the offense was on fire, and the defense is going to be back this year. I think they're going to be in the playoffs. And just, I think that success is a little bit of a projection from my standpoint, but Cousins has been really consistently about a top 15 quarterback. And that's just kind of what he is.
And he has the ability to have Dalvin Cook, which means that you have to, as a defense, you have to look to that run game. You have to dedicate people to it, which also subsequently means, guess what? There are going to be opportunities when defenses get overly aggressive and other things open up as a result of it. So he does also have that advantage.
When you look at this list, do you see one player that you think could be the biggest riser amongst this group?
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston, you think is that guy?
I think he absolutely is. I mean, again, if you take the rookies out of the equation, okay, because those are hard to rate in the first place, and we just don't really know enough. And also, we don't know enough about a lot of those teams, right? Because we don't know what the Jaguars are going to look like. We don't know what the Jets are going to look like. So there's a lot of unknowns there. But I think Jameis Winston has gotten to go to quarterback school, right? Like he, as a 20-year-old, he got thrust into being the man in Tampa, and they did not have what he needed around him to develop him and teach him all of those things to be a franchise quarterback for the long haul, neither in the coaching staff or the mentorship. So he had to be that guy. And, he's been that guy. And now he got to step back and take the pressure off having to be that guy every minute of every day for everyone else. And he actually got to lock in and work on the best version of Jameis as a part of the Saints team, which means he got to learn the system. He got to be groomed by Sean Payton and, freaking Drew Brees. Like that's almost like a dream come true. That's what so many of these rookie quarterbacks, when you hear like Matt Nagy say, we're not going to do that. He's not going to be that guy first. And you hear the same thing in San Francisco. We don't have to go to him right away. Jameis never got that shot of, is he ready or not? He had to go there, and he's been in that pressure cooker in a subpar situation for the whole time. And now he got to step back and take all of the things that made him good and work on some of the things that were holding him back. So to me, like we talked about, he's a hard guy to rate because we haven't seen him in a year, but the fact that we haven't seen him in a year and he wasn't hurt means that we're going to see the best version of Jameis Winston. And I certainly hope that he drops a lot of jaws and scores a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with any of the points. Like I said, I think Jameis could definitely rank a lot higher next year. And I went into that on the rankings. One more, you talked about Justin Herbert a little bit, and you were not happy with me having him at number 9 in the top 10. And just to respond to what you said there, the reason I ranked him in the top 10, obviously the talent is there. Everybody knows about that. But going into next year, I actually think it's going to be positive for him. I actually think he's going to avoid the sophomore slump because I think they've improved in a number of areas on the team. He was actually, I believe PFF ranked him as the top quarterback under pressure, throwing the ball under pressure, which isn't a very sustainable thing, but they have improved their offensive line drastically across the board, which went from one of the worst to, I feel, at least, middle of the pack, if not better this year. And I think that ability to protect him is going to get the best out of him and the best out of the way that he can run around and make plays. And then the coaching staff, I think, is going to be far less conservative and unleash him aggressively. I felt they were way too lenient in terms of their run game and trying to really get that going with Anthony Lynn. I think Brandon Staley, I'm very high on, and I think offensively they are going to be better. So that's why I'm high on Justin Herbert this year, because I do actually see him taking that year 2 jump, not that year 2 slump.
I do agree with what you say about the new offense. And yes, they were a little conservative with him, but for good reason. He wasn't their plan, right? He wasn't the guy that they thought was going to come in and be that guy, right? Like that wasn't the plan. So you had to take it off little by little, right? And kind of let him go. But the truth is that new playbook, new offense, and defense is getting to get a look at you is tough on everyone. So yes, you have an upgrade in the offensive line, but again, I'm going to go back to Tom Brady, your guy, who even
I mean, he was a rookie last year, so how much did he really know the last offense though? Like
Mitch, I get it. But time and time again, there's a reason why the second year is a make or break year in terms of quarterbacks who had to come in fast and furious. And part of that is they get a reduced playbook, right? He was not given the full playbook when he came in, right? Like he had a specific part of it that those were his plays. He was expected to do them and do them very well, and which they gradually would expand. Now he is the man. So guess what? Yes, we'll probably have a little bit of that, but teams will get a shot to figure some of that out. And they have now seen a year's, well, not quite a year's, but a year's worth of tape, and they have had a chance to break it down. Now, they don't have the luxury of having it be the same offense. So defenses will be a little bit on their heels with that. But there is always a little bit of a slow down version when you're executing a new offense, number one. And number two, when defenses know you a little better. So I'm not saying he won't have a good year. I'm just saying I don't put him at top 10 yet, because he will take a few steps back, and we're going to see a lot about him to see how he recovers after that initial kind of welcome to a new offense and welcome to defenses knowing you better.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. I can't really debate the sophomore slump, but I just think he's so good he's going to avoid it. But that's just what I think. So that's Jen's thoughts on my list. Make sure you let us know what you think about my list in the comment section, whether you're here live on Twitch or you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching this, the rewind. Let us know on social media. We will be back after the break to discuss some of the latest in the NFL, including the Tua disaster in practice. We are back live on the Juke. It is Mitch, joined by Dr. Jen Welter. We are the Juke, here to discuss minicamp, because minicamp is underway for many teams across the NFL. And for many teams, they're taking a look at their young quarterbacks. One of those teams is the Miami Dolphins, who are expecting a big jump from Tua in year number 2. Hopefully not that Justin Herbert slump that Jen's talking about, but it doesn't appear to be a good start, Jen, as he threw 5 interceptions in practice. What do you think?
Tua, the defense is sticking it to a because that is not good. That is not easy. I don't know if you can have a sophomore slump when you never got out of your freshman class, right? Like, I don't even think he qualifies for the sophomore slump yet. So I'm just going to put it that way, because we didn't finish the season going Tua. We went Tua bad. Oh gosh. Like, they wanted to go back to Fitzmagic, but he got COVID, right? So you did not see that exponential jump with him at the end of last season, where you'd be like, oh, well, we're going to have to adjust. People left last season going, have we made a huge mistake? And so then coming into training camp, you need to kind of set the tone. And that was a bit tone deaf, because that is not instilling confidence in anybody in Dolphins world, right? And the defense
instilling confidence in me as a Patriots fan.
That is a valid point. I literally, like we said during the break, Mitch, I'm like, as a defense, you're like, oh yeah, we stuck it to the quarterback. Yeah. And then you go, oh, but that's our quarterback. And he gonna have to play for us.
What's that like? Like in practice, I'm sure you've probably been on both sides, where it's like, you've had a really good quarterback. It's like, ooh, this is a baller right here. Like we have confidence, especially on defense. And then on the other side, you're like, I don't know if we might have to win the game by ourselves. Like maybe go through that process.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You have this reckoning, right? When your offense is humming, like, and you finish practice, you're kind of like, like we've got to get better, right? And you kind of buck up. You're like, all right, this is where we need to improve. This is the things they did to us, and you kind of knock it out, right? But you're like, but when your quarterback is being dismantled by your defense, especially one that it's not like they've been through all of camp together and they're used to seeing each other every day, right? It's not like they're, in practice every day and now we're just used to you and we really know the plays. This is early. This is not good. This as a defense, we're going, okay, y'all, we're not going to be able to let them score at all because our offense may be letting them score with 5 INTs. That's potential 35 points right there off your offense going the wrong way, right? Yeah. We have shades of, the Broncos when they had no quarterback and they completed more passes to the other team. Like, this is not good. The defense is going, okay, we're going to have to be locked down and shut down. And you're actually looking at it like,
and that wears on you, though, as a defense, as the game goes by. Like, maybe you can maintain that attitude for a couple quarters, but if it keeps going down, like, you're just like, what are we doing here? Like,
well, and what happens is that you don't get breaks, right? If your offense can't sustain drives, you're on the field a lot of the time. And when you're on the field, you're in bad field position. Right? He may not have thrown a pick six, but you're getting it back and they're in the red zone. You're like, dang it. Okay. We just got a 3 and out. And then you got us back out here before we even got a sip of water. And then if the other offense scores, people go, oh, well, your defense couldn't hold up. Meanwhile, the defense is like, do you realize we were on the field for 75% of the time and we did a dang good job, but we were set up to fail. And that's where it really starts to affect the psyche because people are saying, oh, well, your defense couldn't hold up. And you're like, hold up, wait a minute. Maybe if he didn't keep giving the ball to the other team, we would be doing okay. So that's where it really starts to become difficult because you start thinking no matter what you do, it's not enough. Right. And then you start to get kind of into that, that friction problem of like, well, we're doing our job. And the second it starts going like that, you have offenses and defenses no longer feeling cohesive, and you start getting people who feel like they have to have hero syndrome, which means they may break from what the team philosophy is because now we got to score. And then that's a lot of the times when big plays happen against the defense. So we're going to need more from Tua, or it's going to be Tua bad because you are going to be too far gone for us to bring you back.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for the positives, if you're a Miami Dolphins fan out there and you're like a little bit worried about Tua based on last year, based on this practice report, I'll say this. Sometimes I know it's 5 interceptions, so it's pretty big, but sometimes I feel like it is a little bit overblown, the stats at practice. You don't know the context of the plays. You don't know what happened. You don't know if the defense is playing a defense that's specifically designed to take away what you're running on offense. Like, you don't necessarily know what's coming out of practice there. You're just hoping, if you're a fan, that it's your defense. Like, your defense is really that good, especially, the Dolphins defense was good last year. So there's reason to, understand that maybe with another year of continuity, they're even better and they're just phenomenal. So hopefully that's the case and it's not the offense and it's not Tua. And I'm just trying to give the positives for you guys out there.
Mitch.
Yes.
Were the Dolphins the number 1 rated defense in the NFL last year?
No, but they were up there.
Up there is not enough. Right. Okay. And yes, you could say, hopefully the defense was doing things that was specifically designed to challenge the offense. Well, duh. That's what every defense does every week to every opponent. Right. That's our job, is to give you trouble. So, this defense isn't cohesively together enough to be dismantling your offense like that, which means your offense is not together. Maybe the timing is still off. Maybe we have new receivers in there. We haven't necessarily learned how to break off hot routes and do some of those upper level responsibilities, which that is more likely an explanation, right? The thing that you want to consider in terms of interceptions is that not all of them are on the quarterback.
The quarterback,
right?
Yes.
So if we have a hot route, for example, so for those of you who want to know, like let's say that the defense is running a blitz, and maybe the receiver, like we'll use Waddle because he's new, not for any other reason, and I have no idea that he did this, but if they weren't running a blitz, he might have had a post assignment. And yet, if it is a blitz, he may have to cut it off to a hot route of like a slant. Okay. If he wasn't aware of the hot routes yet, or the call didn't make it to him, he may have continued to run the post, which put him too deep and could have put the ball underthrown to a slant, which would easily result in a pick. So those are the things that may yet have gotten synced up as an offense, but something is bad. We don't know where exactly it lies yet, but it's not a good indicator. It may not all be on Tua, but it is not too good.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a great explanation for those of you that don't, that a lot of us don't know how the practices work in the development of an offense and chemistry. I think a great example, if you watched the Bucs early last year, a lot of the interceptions for Tom Brady, where somebody may watch and be like, Tom Brady's playing awful. It's like, no, it's because, Evans was reading this and Brady was reading that. And Brady threw it here and Evans broke the route here. And they didn't know, they weren't on the same page, especially last year where the offseason was very condensed. Those players that were new were throwing interceptions or making bad throws when it wasn't necessarily a bad play. It was more so bad chemistry. So that's something definitely that could have happened. Great explanation there. I think when we're looking at Tua, do you think he can rebound this year, or do you think like the Dolphins are going to have to look towards the future already sooner rather than later?
It's early to look to the future, right? There's not, I mean, they don't have the opportunity to really look to the future right now, unless you want to say, okay, we're going to go get Aaron Rodgers, right? Like there's, we're past that looking for the future right now, unless somebody comes available all of a sudden, Deshaun Watson is available and they can get him cheap or one of those things, right? Like unless something like that happens, you've really already made the decision that Tua is the guy this year. Now, what you're
for sure this year. I'm thinking like next year or the year after, whatever it is.
That's what they're going to really have to decide this year. And Flores and his staff have to look at how much time do we have to make this team competitive that they will keep us around and not look to upgrade us. Because what people forget is that the coaching spots are not guaranteed either. And that keeping your job is about like direction of the franchise and proving that you can make these things happen. So how much time does that coaching staff have to be able to say Tua is the guy? And that's a huge element in it, right? Look at what they did, when they flipped up the Arizona staff. It was like, no, this isn't our guy. We want Kyler Murray and we're going to go get him, even though it was a tough investment, but we don't feel like we can build around Rosen, right? So you make some of those tough choices because that you do or do not have enough time, and it will depend on who becomes available, because sometimes for example, like the Bucs might have hung in with Jameis Winston if Tom Brady had not become available. But all of a sudden they said, if we can get this guy, we can win right now. And I want to win right now. And we push all the chips in. So that has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah. Fair points. So I think the expectation for Miami, a lot of people, expectation for them is to reach the playoffs. They were one win away from reaching the playoffs. Last year, they were 10-6. Obviously, they were kind of a surprising 10-6. A lot of that kind of coincided with the Patriots taking a step back to 7-9. So now we know that the Jets have improved. The Patriots have improved. The Bills are the Bills. So a lot of pressure is on the Dolphins to be that team this year. And I think if they do miss the playoffs this year, you also have to look at the individual performance of Tua, not just the team success, right? Is Tua going to be the guy that's going to be able to be your franchise moving forward? And you have to be able to evaluate that outside of the team. So we'll see how he does moving forward. There is a...
Wait, real quick, Mitch. Do you think that the Dolphins got better? Because you said everybody else that got better. Do you think that the Dolphins got better? And did they get better enough to have remained in that same 10-6 realm with the other teams as they are?
I don't see them as a playoff team this year. And a lot of that has to do with Tua, because I just don't see him as the answer. Now, I'm totally open for him to prove me wrong, and I'll say if I'm wrong. But I look at them on paper and I say, okay, there's reasons to be optimistic that they have improved, because they have added receivers. They've added Waddle, they've added Fuller, they've added to the offensive line, the defense have added a couple players. So on paper, you would look at them and say, okay, this team should be just as good, if not better. But when you consider their last year performance, the division kind of flopping, and all the things kind of happening this offseason, last year I almost felt like they were how do I put this? They were kind of like a paper tiger. They were like a 10-win team that didn't feel like a 10-win team. They won a lot of games in kind of fluky fashion, in my opinion. And I just don't see how that's kind of repeatable this year. So I see them as like a competitive team and maybe like flirting with the playoffs, but I feel like they're going to just miss out.
Well, and how many of those games were won by Fitzmagic, not by Tua?
That's true.
Right?
A good portion of them.
Right. So you lost the leader that was actually taking you to a point of confidence. And that's a big thing, right? And that's also the reason why I said, look for Fitzmagic with that really pretty tough WTF team to come back and have a season where he basically, pulls a lucky charm out of his beard and flips the Dolphins a little like, you missed out on me, because I think that he's coming in hot. And I think that Ron Rivera and that defense are going to make it tough. And so Miami is missing that magic. So we can't look at them without realizing that they lost their Fitzmagic.
Very true. There's some guy here that has lost his magic. Ooh. It's Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell has lost his magic. Absolutely. He never wants to play for Andy Reid again. This is what he said. And okay, I don't blame him a little bit in terms of like, he expected to go to the Chiefs and then do something with the Chiefs. And then similarly to LaShawn McCoy, he never really ended up doing anything. Both those veteran running backs signed with the Chiefs hoping to be a part of their run, and they were not. Now, LaShawn McCoy handled it totally much more in a better fashion as a vet, as a pro, and Le'Veon Bell really did not, as Le'Veon Bell is basically still thinking he is this elite running back when he has not shown it since basically taking a year off from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Your friend, Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, has replied saying, these fellas will blame everybody for their lack of success. That's how I know I'm built different. Now, Matthew gives a little bit of a compliment to himself, a pat on the back to himself, but he also says, hey, buddy, Le'Veon, prove it. Do something about it. What do you think about that, Jen?
Look, the bell tolls for all of us, right? Like, for whom the bell tolls, and you didn't pay the tolls. So maybe like if you were going to sound the alarm bell on someone or a team that you didn't want to be with, you should have the stats to back it up. And you know what? Honey Badger is right to bet on himself, because when the Cardinals tried to restructure his contract or kind of offered him that, not so good deal after he had one, what did he do? He bet on himself, went to the Texans, right? Yeah. On a 1-year deal, took less money That's how you know that Honey Badger is built different, because he's like, you know what? I am going to go there and I'm going to prove to you that you lost out on one of the best players in the National Football League. And I'm going to take a 1-year deal and I'm going to do it to spite you so that you go, dang it, maybe we shouldn't have let that guy go. And then look what happened, because he bet on himself and he put up the numbers. Ooh, he got picked up by the Chiefs and he was a significant part of that run. And he is a significant part of that team. Le'Veon, meanwhile, Andy Reid is no joke, okay? And this is one of the most prolific offenses in the National Football League right now. I get it that you didn't get to do what you wanted with it, but what did you do to put yourself in a better position by saying that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
how does this help him?
Help you? How does it help you? And that's why, they'll blame everybody. Ty, this is correct. You are built different, because you know what? He said, okay, you don't see me, I see me, and I'm going to go make you see that you made a mistake. As opposed to complaining about it, I'm going to be about it. And if we all took the Ty Matthew mentality, ooh, lordy, you'd have a much more vicious NFL in terms of the competition to be great. That kid would go out and play street ball to prove that he could, that he could lock you up, right? It doesn't have to be about money for him. It's about pride. And we need a little bit more pride and a little less complaining. I get it if that situation didn't do for you what you wanted. And I hate that for anybody. We all have those moments. But what is it that you did from saying this that puts you in another position? Or do you just want to have somebody else to blame for the fact that you are not the guy of old? And if you get that next shot, what would that look like? Do you think, Mitch,
that he can be the guy of old?
I mean,
is that what you're asking?
He'll get another shot, or do you think he just?
I certainly don't. I certainly don't think that this helps him by saying this, because if there is a respected coach in the NFL, it is Andy Reid. I mean, he is absolutely, especially with the coaching tree that he has around the league. I mean, I would suspect that his coaching tree makes up at least a third of the NFL. So that's you're basically crossing off a bunch of teams on your list to potentially go to. A running back is a position that already is absolutely loaded, and we've seen very replaceable because of the amount of talented players that play at the position. So for Le'Veon Bell, who is older, that does him no favors. For now, saying this, which already would go along with a reputation of not exactly being ideal off the field in terms of an attitude and a work ethic, and probably wanting more money than he's worth, it's going to be really difficult for Le'Veon Bell to get a job. Honestly, like it is. I mean, is he a player that probably deserves, like talent-wise, to be on a roster still as a backup? Probably. But if you're considering everything that goes along with being a backup in the NFL, a lot of that, I just don't think Le'Veon Bell has put himself in a very good position at all. I think he's probably done. Honestly, he's probably done, or at least he'll be like maybe a mid-season pickup or something of that nature.
I don't know that he's done, right? Because there's always needs. But will you be humble enough to take what someone would take you for, right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll go back to Jameis Winston. Would you go back to a backup role? Would you build into a younger guy? Could you be there and know that you're not going to be the man if everything goes as planned, right? Like, he wasn't even in line to be the second guy because that was already promised to Taysom Hill last year. Le'Veon Bell, could you do that because you believed in yourself and your work ethic to the extent that you knew you could win a job? If you're in camp, that you will flash, that you will take somebody's spot. Do you have that hungry dog that you would take maybe an incentive contract just to get into camp? Because that would be my test at this point. Like, listen, okay, you think you got overlooked? You think that you're better than this? Then let's put your game on the line and see how high or how far you can take it, and you're going to come in here and prove that you're going to knock somebody off their spot, and you're going to be the dog who takes the job. But I'm not going to take you for anything less than that right now, because I'm not going to have you blaming me for the fact that you couldn't take the job from somebody else.
All right, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know if you think Le'Veon Bell still has what it takes to be in the NFL as a running back. Will he return to form, or will he fade away from the NFL? Also, let us know what you think of Tua at practice. Is he going to improve this year, or are the Dolphins in trouble? We'll be back. We are back live on Twitch. We are the Juke, Dr. Jen Welter. I am Mitch. Here to discuss the rest of the latest in the NFL, as well as another professional football league, which we'll get to in a little bit. But let's start off with Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams is one of the few players in the NFL that's holding out for what else but a bigger contract, more money, and the respect that comes along with it. Jen, I know you were vocal about it earlier with the Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and you've been all over the Seahawks as of late. So give me your thoughts on Adams.
Look, not all over them in a good way, because
that's what I mean.
I'm trench worthy, right? Like we need trenches in this league, right? You need them on the O-line. Mahomes proved that last year, or actually I should say the Bucks proved that last year in how they took down the Chiefs and Mahomes with the lack of O-line. But the other side of the ball is, the guys who did that. You need the dogs on the D-line. You need the sack count. Any one of these quarterbacks in the National Football League can take you apart if they're allowed to sit back like Baker, the commercial maker, in the tower by that O-line. And if you don't have pass rushers, that's what happens. And guess what? The leading pass rusher for the Seahawks is not a D-lineman. First of all, problematic. It is Jamal Adams. And guess what?
Yep.
He is not there, and he wants more money. Now, when I talked to Roy Williams about Jamal Adams, Roy actually said it's about time that we got the respect for the pressure that we could bring, and maybe that'll get the safety position a little bit more money. Well, that now I feel like he was reading into like my magic 8-ball and saying, yeah, all signs point to yes, because Jamal Adams is realizing that, he's a special breed, especially on that team. Now, my question is, Mitch, what do you think about the money and, this contract extension? Because he's not cheap already.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised about this whole thing, because I wouldn't expect a player like 1 year into after just getting traded to already be asking for more money. Like, this almost feels like something that would have been figured out last year. I don't really know. Maybe the Seahawks kind of saw this coming. Maybe they kind of knew that if Adams wasn't going to get an extension after year one right away, or during year one right away, that he was going to be a little disgruntled and he wouldn't report to camp. So I do eventually think this is going to be figured out some way, some shape, some form. You don't spend all these picks and then not pay the guy, because obviously he's shown his value to the defense as a pass rusher, as a coverage player, as a run defender. He does it all. He's a valuable player, and they need him there. So especially a team in Seattle that's already having their own issues with their quarterback, as you've brought up on this show. Like, you can't have one of your premier defensive player on that side of the ball now a little upset, and that's just going to make your quarterback even more upset, and it's going to set your team off the hinges, Jen.
Right. I'm already like seeing problems for the Seahawks, because again, we don't know what their identity is. And if your premier pass rusher or your sack leader is going to come from the safety position, then guess what? You're going to have to start paying him like that. And you're going to have to make sure that he is at least secure, because you don't have another answer when it comes to pressure. And you're no longer the Legion of Boom. So we like the Seahawks that used to do people dirty on the defensive side of the ball have fluttered away. And you need to rebuild that identity, and you've got to have some of those key players. It is not a good sign that he is holding out already. ready.
Now, on the flip side, we had today Derek Carr, a passionate Derek Carr, speaking on basically all these rumors that have been going on because John Gruden's the coach. Let's just be honest. It's because John Gruden's the coach. John, I'm calling you out. Because you're the coach, every single quarterback you have constantly is wondering whether you're going to trade him or you're going to trade for somebody else. So Derek Carr says he is loyal to the silver and black. I'd probably quit football if I had to play for somebody else. I am a Raider. Jen, I know you love this loyalty. What do you think about Derek Carr saying this?
You know, I do love that he said it because you don't get it that often. And the Raiders have invested a ton of money in John Gruden. Now, if we could see Derek Carr come back to the ceiling that we know he has, right? Like he was at one point in MVP conversations. He had a tragic injury. And as you said, he had an upswing last year. I do question sometimes what the Raiders are doing in terms of, you know, again, what is your identity? But apparently whatever that identity is, Derek Carr is feeling it, which means that if you can, you know, really start to come out of it, you've got a guy who wants to be there for the long haul. And in the quarterback position, that's really, really valuable, right? Like you don't always find those franchise guys. And when you've got them, I think that you should do your best to keep them happy and keep them in place and give them tools to surround themselves so that they can, you know, get some W's, because what you don't want is Aaron Rodgers situation right now. And so good for him on saying it. I just hope that, you know, what he's selling, Chucky is buying.
What does it mean to a football team when they have their quarterback say something like that?
It means a lot, and it means a lot, especially when it's followed up in action, right? What does it mean for you to stay there? Okay. We saw Tannehill restructure his contract. We saw Mahomes restructure his contract. We saw Brady restructure his contract. Meanwhile, we saw Russell Wilson upset. We saw Aaron Rodgers upset. We saw Deshaun Watson upset. Now, those aren't apples to apples situations, but the long haul is really important. And so if you say you want to be there, what other things will you do to ensure that you have a culture where it's not just we're going to be here, but we're going to win here? Because you want to actually not only keep the people who are there, but you want to make it a franchise that people want to come and play for, that they want to make the choice in free agency that they might take less money. Look, you had Ndamukong Suh agree to less money. Now, prior to this, would you have ever thought that that player who did not have a great reputation in terms of putting anybody above himself except himself, right?
Yep.
Not other players, not anything else. Now, whether or not that perception was right or wrong, I'm not commenting, but that was not the narrative that we would have had until he did that. But guess what? More than one person made a sacrifice for that team to keep that roster together. And when you start to create a culture of winning, and when you have buy-in, you will attract talent that goes beyond cap space. And that's what it means. So it will be really interesting to see what else happens with that. I don't know what locker room cred Derek Carr has. I don't know what the environment in Vegas is like, because all of those things factor in, but it is a good thing to hear, and it should instill confidence in people who are looking at the Raiders, and, you know, whether or not they'd want to go play there and whether or not they'd want to stay there.
Yeah, I will say this, something positively about John Gruden. It does feel like ever since he's been there, Derek Carr has reignited his fire. So whatever that has, some X factor within that relationship that has gotten the best out of Derek Carr, it's nice to see, and hopefully he does well this season. I want to finish off with close to home, the football league close to home in Canada. The CFL is returning August 5th, Jen. I know that you have a story that you told me about the CFL and your relationship with it. So why don't you let the audience know that story?
Mitch, which story? I feel like I have so many relationships with the CFL, but
well, the
go
story
ahead.
where with the Australian football team where you got
Oh,
invited.
with
Yeah.
BC. So, I mean, I have a lot of love for the CFL, first of all, because I think it's so important for guys to be able to play. And with the AAF not being here, with, the XFL, who knows when it'll come back, we need guys to be on the field. And a lot of the players that I coached or know have gone and had great careers in the CFL. And I love this style of football, to be perfectly honest. I love the
Yeah.
high motion. I think it's exciting to watch. I love that they have to return punts, just fair catch stuff, right? Like, so I have been a fan of the CFL game for a long time and have friends there. So there was a crazy instance that happened a couple of years ago, probably 2016, I think it was. And one of the coaches for the BC Lions was doing an event, and it was supposed to be like he had a woman who he had worked with who was now in the NFL, and she couldn't go to the event because of something with visa. So like last minute, she can't go, and the whole event is built around this theme. Well, the next person he could think of, I guess, to fill in was me. And we didn't know each other, but he reached out, and it was like this last minute, insane overnight flight. Like, it was like planes, trains, and automobiles to get there. But I was like, all right, coach, I got you, whatever we need to do, blah. Had the event, amazing guy, Coach Belfort. And so it was one of those things. He's like, if I can ever do anything, and you don't really know what that means, right? But it was good human stuff. And so then fast forward 2017, it is the Women's World Championship, the IFAF Women's World Championship, and Team Australia, we got together 2 weeks before the championship started and trained in Vancouver, and the CFL preseason was going on. Well, most of my players had never gotten the opportunity to go to a pro football game. They'd been to rugby games and, Aussie rules, but not football. And so coach and I talked, and he actually got us tickets for the entire team to go to a BC game. And I know Manny and Manny Argo, and we got to go as a group. And so Team Australia was this rowdy group of female football fans that came in and cheered at a CFL preseason game. And I'll tell you what, my players were blown away by just how hospitable and how much the CFL went out of their way to take care of the women's team. And it's something I obviously was very grateful for, but I know that they've never forgotten, because for many of those women, their first pro football game was with the CFL.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool story. That's CFL making an impact. It's not just the NFL, but the CFL can leave an impact as well. So we have hit our time for the Juke, but we appreciate you joining us here live on Twitch. Jen, do you have anything to plug, anything to let the viewers know about?
You know what, Mitch? I am just going to tell them that they all need to follow us on all of our social media. We're at the Juke Pod, and Dr. Jen Welter, and then Mitch, tell them about your YouTube channel and every place that they can find you, because obviously we do this together, but Mitch also does some dope stuff on his own. So you cannot miss out on that, because, we come together, but we're also pretty amazing apart too.
So I actually, if you listen to our discussion about the quarterback rankings, where you can find it and my full discussion, my full analysis on every player, that's at the Bottom Line View on YouTube. Go join the community. Always looking for new football fans and smart football minds. Get in that comment section. Let me know if I'm an idiot. Whatever you want to do. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani. That's Milani. Thanks for joining us here live on Twitch. It's Mitch, Dr. Jen Welter. Peace.